clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here. Now, I'm going to guess, this is a guess because I don't know you personally, you've got at least one bad habit, something that isn't that healthy, and something that if you did less of that and more of something else, actually it would improve the quality of your life, you would feel better about yourself, you might have more energy, more health, more confidence, something like that. Well, you've come to the right place because this hypnosis session is all about reducing unhealthy habits and increasing healthy habits. And there was a client that I was working with that used to drink alcohol on their own, and then they stopped drinking alcohol and they started having sugary sweets, and they didn't want to replace one with the other. So you might be familiar with a game called Whack-A-Mole where in these kind of arcades, a little animal would pop up, you hit it with a little hammer, and then another one pops up somewhere else. That can happen with habits, that actually you break one habit and then another unhealthy habit just replaces it. So we don't want this psychological whack-a-mole taking place. What we want is to be intentional, that as one habit reduces, a healthy habit replaces it. And it's good to have behavioral psychology alongside the hypnosis within this. And I make reference to a marble jar. So if you just think of a big vase, a glass vase, or a big, one of those big jars, the kind of mason jars. Now just imagine that you've got lots of marbles, and every time you did something healthy instead of something unhealthy, you put one of those marbles and you put it in the jar, and you could probably imagine what that would sound like, the rattling around, the glass on glass kind of sound. That becomes an anchor, it becomes a trigger that actually means that you get to feel good whenever you do the healthy thing. And then you get to feel good by rewarding yourself by putting the marble in the jar. And you also get to feel good whenever you see that jar filling up with marbles to say, oh, I've got lots and lots of healthy habits that I'm building in my life. So it's a metaphor within the hypnosis, but I would encourage you to buy that big jar, buy the pack of marbles, and then give yourself a rule that says when you do something healthy or you do the habit that you want to cultivate more of, put a marble in the jar, and then that creates a wonderful self-fulfilling prophecy and positive reinforcement, which is part of behavioral psychology. Now, this session is about wine and sugar. That's the habits that this client wanted to change and be more active and do things like more yoga and walking and things like that. It might be different for you. So if you like the idea of a bespoke session, something crafted specifically for you, have a look in the show notes because there's a suitability test and there's a webinar and there's various downloads and courses all there in the show notes. So check those out. For now though, find a quiet, comfortable place where you won't be distracted or disturbed. Relax and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in, and as you breathe in that slow, long, relaxing breath, and as you exhale, allow your eyes to close and position your body in such a way where you can really feel comfortable and relaxed. That's it. Breathing in relaxation and exhaling tension. Each breath facilitates a release of any stress and worries, a release of any frustration or annoyance, a release of anything that has been contributing to anything other than calm, peace, tranquility, and acceptance. And when you breathe in slightly deeper than you normally would. And as you exhale, allow the outward breath to continue for longer than it normally would. And the deeper you breathe, the more relaxed you feel. And the more relaxed you feel, the deeper you breathe. And just scan your body for any clues of tension, stress, any echoes of emotions that aren't needed right now. And every exhale, allow yourself, give permission to just let go and feel the release of that unnecessary emotion there in the outward breath. That's it. And there may be sensations, tingles, twitches, lightness or heaviness that lets you know that this release is happening. And every time you notice something, you allow your unconscious mind to facilitate more of that release. Because there is nothing that needs to be done, nothing to manage, nothing to figure out. Just this, just now. Just the simple permission to arrive somewhere quieter than outside. Noise doesn't just come from building work and the external environment. Sometimes noise happens inside your own mind. The nervous system sometimes forgets what stillness feels like until it remembers. Notice the weight of your body, the places of contact and support, the breath moving on its own without instruction, reliable, constant, always there even when everything else felt uncertain. Your unconscious mind is incredibly resourceful. It's been working on your behalf even in the hardest weeks. It's been finding clarity in places you didn't expect it. And here, now, today, you get to let that clarity settle, to deepen, to become something that lives in the body and not just the mind. I want you to remember a place perhaps that only you know. A place from childhood, a place in nature, perhaps a place outside that felt yours. Maybe it was surrounded by trees or water or open sky. It doesn't even have to be a real place. It could be just within your imagination. A place the mind goes when it needs to find itself again. And in this place, there is a particular quality of light, the kind that makes everything feel truthful, the kind that doesn't allow shadows to be confused for solid things. And with each breath, you can go deeper into this place. As I count down from 10 to 1, give permission to go deeper. 10, 9, the ordinary noise of the day receding. 8, 7, 6, arms and legs becoming heavier and more relaxed, more at ease. 5, 4, 3, a deep, comfortable stillness. 2 and then 1. And what if here, in this space of deep knowing, your unconscious is listening, ready to receive what is true, what is real, what you have already decided at a level far deeper than words. You already know that there is a particular kind of freedom that doesn't need to announce itself loudly. It arrives quietly, in the gap between the old habit and the new decision. And sometimes a person doesn't fully recognize it for what it is. Think of a realization where you have arrived at something important, not through willpower and not through struggle or white-knuckling your way through a craving, but through genuine clarity, the kind that comes when the body and mind and all of your history and experience all speak at once and say, no, not this, not anymore. I want you to think of that recent moment where it made sense. You introduced a boundary and felt no fear of loss, but a sense of liberation. You escaped the issue. You weren't running away from it. That direct message from your own intuition, your own experience saying, I don't want to drink alcohol at all. You don't want it. And that is not a limitation, not a sacrifice. That is simply a fact about who you are. You don't want it anymore. You are not someone who wants to drink but is trying not to drink. You are someone who simply does not drink because you simply do not want to. And you can notice the difference between those two identities. The person trying not to do something is always in a mild state of resistance, still attached to the thing, a constant struggle, second guessing. But the person who simply does not want to do it and does not do it has stepped outside the equation entirely. They are not at war with alcohol. They are indifferent to it. In the same way that a non-smoker that would never want to smoke does not need willpower to not pick up a cigarette. It's just background noise. It exists. It's there. but they do not want it. And your unconscious mind can make this shift, not as an instruction to be enforced, but as a recognition of what is already true. You've already crossed the threshold. The decision has already been made. This is just enabling all parts of your unconscious to recalibrate, to synthesize, to integrate. And whenever you think about a future where alcohol might be present, you already know in advance you don't want it. Alcohol is not in your future, but it was in your past. It belongs to a version of you that you have already outgrown. And every social situation that once felt like it required willpower or negotiation, every offer of a drink, every moment where the old habit would have reached for something in a glass, can now carry a different feeling. Not deprivation, not discipline, simply the quiet satisfaction of someone who knows exactly who they are. You've fully integrated that realization now. So let's turn your attention to something else. Something that wears a more innocent disguise. Your body has been sending equally clear signals about. And there is a substance, an addictive substance, a poisonous substance, responsible for killing millions each year, that is added to almost everything, that has been normalized so completely that the food industry has made billions, ensuring people never stop to question it. It hides in birthday cakes and office biscuits and sauces and condiments. And the body experiences not as a food, but as a drug. Some people call it the most deadly of the white poisons. Refined sugar. Not the natural sugars in an apple or a banana or dried fruit like a fig. These things come packaged with fiber. A grape has sugar, but has water to carry and dilute that sugar. Fruits have micronutrients. They work with the body's enzymes. But the white, crystalline substance that has been stripped of everything except its hit. When refined sugar enters the bloodstream, in a drink, or a sweet, or a piece of chocolate, it does not behave like food. It creates a spike, a rapid elevation of dopamine and blood glucose that feels briefly like relief, like reward, like pleasure, distilled, crystallized gratification. And then, like all drug hits, it drops rapidly. And the drop creates the craving for the next hit. This isn't a metaphor. This is real biochemistry. The reward pathway activated by refined sugar is the same reward pathway activated by cocaine. The mechanisms of craving is chemically identical. The withdrawal is real. The tolerance builds, and the dose required to get the same effect increases over time, affecting the blood, the body, the brain. Refined sugar is not a treat, even if it's hidden in colourful packaging. It is a drug. And if you see it clearly now for what it is, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. And sometimes it's sneaky. Those fruit juices that come from concentrate, that has sugar. The syrups, the jams. It's obvious when it's a sugar cube. It's obvious when it's a can of fizzy drink. But I want you to imagine being able to look at something that you know contains sugar, the way you might look at a line of cocaine on a table with clear eyes. Nobody sees cocaine and think, oh, that's harmless. They know it's corrosive, addictive, but a drug user does it anyway. Once you see sugar for what it really is, you don't want it in refined form. You only want it in natural form. Something that is wonderful in nature is toxic when it's gone through that process of refinement, taking everything good, nutrients, water, fiber out. That's what makes it dangerous. You see sugar with the knowledge of what it actually is and what it actually does. Not with fear or craving, but with the calm recognition of someone who has decided that this is not for me anymore. Not because I cannot, but because I know what it is, and I don't want that. Sugar withdrawal is real. It feels like it can cause tiredness, cloudiness, fatigue, irritability. But your unconscious mind is already prepared for it, considering it a tunnel, short or long, with a clear light at the end of that tunnel. And when you get to the other side, you're free of it. And any inner dialogue that says it's harmless is like bait on a hook. If you nibble at the bait, it pulls you back in. If a fish knew the bait had a hook, of course they'd never eat it. But they don't. And that's what leads to their demise. Some people believe that when you know better, you do better. When you see refined sugar for what it really is, even a commercial of a soft drink, of ice cream, takes on a sinister connotation. These companies know it's addictive. It kills people. 100 years from now, they will look at adverts for high sugar products in the same way that we look at adverts for cigarette companies in the 1950s. They knew, and yet they did them anyway. You are out, or soon to be out of that tunnel, already free of it, with no desire to nibble at the bait. The food industry has little interest in you discovering an energy that is steady rather than spiked. Your unconscious will crave real, natural foods, where your blood sugar levels rise slowly and fall slowly, not spike and crash. Your body runs clean. You choose food that nourishes, not substances that spike and crash. It's interesting how the mind works when a habit is removed. Something important that your unconscious can hold on to as a piece of protective wisdom. The human mind, the reward system, is ancient. It is wired not for health or longevity or spiritual growth, but for immediate relief from discomfort, for the quickest available dopamine, for the nearest exit from an uncomfortable feeling. And when one door is closed, the mind, with its remarkable efficiency, immediately begins searching for the nearest open door. And this is why people stop smoking and then start snacking, stop drinking and begin compulsive online shopping, leave one difficult relationship and unconsciously find their way into a structurally identical one. This is not weakness, it's engineering. The internal reward system doing exactly what it was designed to do. And because you see the mechanism clearly, you can work with it rather than being worked by it. You do not replace one crutch with another, one destructive habit with another. You get to choose where your dopamine comes from, consciously, deliberately, with full awareness. And the question your unconscious can sit with is, what do you want to be addicted to? That drive to seek reward and pleasure is not going away, nor would you want it to. It's what gets you out of bed, what draws you towards beauty and connection and craft. The question is only ever toward what shall this drive be aimed? Your body has its own intelligence about this. It already knows what it means to feel genuinely well, genuinely alive. And there are activities that produce the same neurochemicals as substances, but without the consequence and the debt, without the withdrawal, without the morning after. The best example is movement, exertion, the physical world meeting the body with real resistance and real reward. That also produces dopamine, but also endorphins and serotonin, in a form the body recognizes as earned, as real, as sustainable. And accomplishment, the particular satisfaction of making that important decision, learning that new thing, making something with your hands, getting something done that you've been putting off. All of that also releases that dopamine. What if you were addicted to movement, exercise, walking, or accomplishment? This is not a substitute for the thing you are leaving behind. It is something of an entirely different order, because a substance gives the feeling of reward without the underlying reality, whereas accomplishment gives the feeling of reward because of the underlying reality. The reward and the achievement are proportionate. And what if you are building a life where your dopamine is real, where the feeling of reward and the thing you have done are connected? I want you to create an image in your mind. A big jar made of glass, maybe a glass vase. And just imagine, every time you do something that required effort, a difficult decision, you solved a problem, you did that thing you wanted to do. Just imagine placing a marble in a box next to it into the jar. Hear it clink. Maybe it spirals round. Maybe it has that bouncing sound of a glass marble on glass. When you do the thing, you feel good. When you put the marble in the jar, you feel good. And every time you see the marbles in the jar accumulating, you feel good. And I wonder if you could imagine 6 months from now, 6 months of being free of alcohol and refined sugar. But I want you to see that jar or that big vase filled with marbles. And then look at clues. Maybe it's a dog that's smiling and happy. Maybe it's more energy levels and better sleep. Maybe you feel better in your own body. Almost like every marble is proof of who you are choosing to be. Proof that you can be addicted to things that enhance your life rather than destroy it. Choosing to do difficult things when there's every reason not to may encourage you to put 2 marbles in the jar for something particularly difficult. And I want you to assess how you would feel about your life 6 months from now. What trajectory are you on? Where is your life taking you? Is it better or worse than when evenings were filled drinking wine? If your unconscious is now willing to shut one door and be very intentional as to the new door you're opening, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. And so it's time to return. You return with clarity. You return with synergy, alignment, an identity that feels exciting, positive, It feels like possibility. So take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. And wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes. Connect and calibrate into the here and the now. As I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of The Hypnotist. If you've enjoyed this episode or got some value from it, please give it a 5-star rating and review. And maybe you know someone that would also benefit from this particular episode, in which case share the episode with them so they can also get the benefit too. And if you would like to listen to this episode where it's just the hypnosis, so no intro, no outro, no explanation, just the hypnosis and completely ad-free, there will be a link in the description where you can subscribe at a very low cost and only get access to the hypnosis. So if that's of interest, please check that out. Thank you again for being a regular listener of The Hypnotist, and I'll see you again soon for more.